So I'm back with episode 3 of the Winhance Development Diaries. Now in the previous video we were busy updating the external app catalog to include the items that was requested by you guys in the community. And I had an issue where it was actually giving me duplicate items that already exist in the external app catalog, but I had to stop the recording. And what I did after the recording was I manually went through the external app catalog and looked at each one of the items that I already have here. And I just verified that the package names are correct. So I went and did that, and then I ran the Winhance search script again for the items that I don't have yet. So this is what you can see on the right side here. There is some items that have been found, but some of these do not have installers in Winhance. And I'm going to double check those manually because I have seen that this Winhance search script that I'm using does falsely report that there are no packages found, although packages exist on Winhance or the MS store. But in any case, I'm going to give the instruction to the AI to add these items that we already have. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the path of this catalog file, and then I'll copy the path of the file containing the new items. And then I'm just going to give it this instruction. So I've told it to add the found packages from the Winhance package results file to the external app catalog file, and then to make sure to include each item in the correct category with a suitable description. Because the category that we have here in the external app catalog, that's going to determine where we'll find it inside of the UI. So you'll see these are all browsers, but if we go down, we have categories like imaging and multimedia, messaging, email and calendar, and so on. So I'm going to give it that instruction, and I'm just going to close these tabs so that we don't have a split view anymore. So first it's going to start analyzing the external app catalog, and once again, Windsurf does this 200 lines at a time, and like I said before in the previous video, this is almost 1,200 lines of code, which is becoming an issue, and I am going to be breaking this catalog up into different sections with regards to their categories. So each category is going to have its own file where the items will be saved. So it's successfully analyzed the entire external app catalog file, and then it analyzed the Winhance package results. So just to show you, this is only like 200 lines. So the AI model doesn't have a lot of issues parsing that because it's not a lot of information. So it's busy adding the items to the external app catalog, and then we'll check in after it's finished. Okay, so it's done, and it says that it successfully added all the found packages to the external app catalog, and it's been placed in an appropriate category. So here's a summary of everything that was done. Now I'm just going to go and manually double check this. So I'll search for each item. So we do have KeyPass XC, and I'm just going to drag this down so I can verify that it is the correct package name, and that is also correct. Then we have Pod Player, that's been added. Crystal Disk Info, that's also correctly added. And then IOBIT Unlocker as well. Okay, so I just quickly went through this entire list of everything that it added, and everything was added to the external app catalog. And we can see from our Winhance results package that it was a total of 13 items that needed to be added. And on the right here, we also do have a total of 13 packages. Now I still need to go through the not found packages, but before I do that, I'm just going to accept these changes to the file, and then I'm going to build the application. So we'll just do a .NET build and then .NET run of the application, so I can just see what it looks like. So if we go to the external software and we go to one of these items that we added, like there's Tailscale, we got KeyPass XC, we've got Pod Player there. So all of these items have been added. So once I'm completely finished with updating the external app catalog, I'm going to be installing every single one of the applications to test if they do install. I'm not going to do that on this recording, but I will be testing it before I release the update. We still have some packages that were not found on Winhance. And for packages that are not found on Winhance, I can use a custom install to just download the installer and then install that on your computer. But that's only as long as I can get a link to the latest version of the application. For applications that I'm having trouble with, like one of the items is CD Burner XP, which is on Ninite, for example. It's not available on Winhance. And when you go to the web page, the download link is tied to the version. It's not a link that always downloads the latest version. If we go to Winhance, for example, and I copy this link address from the download button and I paste that, you can see it points to the GitHub page, and then it always downloads the latest release. There's no version number included in this URL here, and that's going to be the same for any other project that's hosted on GitHub. So one of the items I spotted here was Explorer Patcher. So I know that's on GitHub. I just want to do a manual search on Winget. So I'll just do Winget search Explorer, because I just want to see if Explorer Patcher does exist here, because I don't fully trust the script that I was using to search for these. So here you can see that Explorer Patcher does exist on Winget. So the script that I was using to search for these Winget packages, the search that this was doing had a space between Explorer and Patcher, and we can see that there's no space between the words Explorer and Patcher. So that's why I didn't find any items for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manually go through each one of these not found packages real quick and see if I do get a ID for them on Winget. And then once I've got all that info, I'm just going to cut over to the next scene and we'll continue with the implementation of it. Okay, so I just quickly went through this list and I did identify that these items are available on Winget. So it's bulk grab uninstaller, Explorer Patcher, Streamlabs OBS, input leap, and then text grab. I will include text grab here, but honestly, you can use the snipping tool on Windows 11 to do the same thing that text grab does. And then even if you're on Windows 10, you can use Microsoft Power Toys to also extract text, because it basically includes the text grab utility in Microsoft Power Toys. But anyway, I will include those. These that I haven't found, I'll check if I can find direct download links to these applications and then install it that way. But I'm just going to give the AI the instruction again, and I'll just copy what I said above. I'll just change it so it says add the packages above to the external app catalog file, and then make sure to include each item with the correct category with a suitable description. So I'll just go ahead and give that instruction, and then it can go ahead and do that again. Okay, so all of these items have just been added to the external app catalog. So I'm just going to accept that. And I have also just verified that they are all in the catalog here with the correct package names. So these other items that was not found, I'll have to get direct download links for these. But what I was thinking of while working on this now is I'll definitely need to create templates for these issues that we have here, so that when people are requesting features or stuff that has to be added, or if they're opening issues, they can use a template, and the template will also tell the person who's requesting the feature or who's requesting software to be added to go and find the Winget or Microsoft Store download link. So what I mean by that is sometimes an application has a Winget ID like this, but you can also get it through the MS Store, which is the Microsoft Store, and then usually the ID looks like that. The template will explain how to get those things so that I don't have to manually go and look for each one of these Winget IDs or download links, and that I can just spend time adding them to the application. So I'm not going to continue with adding more apps to the external app catalog in this recording now. I'll go through these at another time off of the recording. I want to see if there's something else we can work on while I'm recording this video. So I'm just going to go to the roadmap that we have on the README page, so I can just check what we can work on next. So one of the very important things I need to add is an internet connection check before attempting to install an application, and then also internet checks during the app installation in case of timeouts occurring. So to start off, I'm going to navigate to the files in the project that we're going to be working on, because like I said in the last video, because this is a large project, sometimes the AI has a difficulty finding the files that it needs to work on. So I'm going to give it the file paths that it needs to work on. So I've got the app installation service file and the Winget installation service file, and I'm going to start a new chat. I'm going to copy both of these paths of these files, and then I'll give it the following instruction. So I'll tell it, you need to add internet connection checks before an app installation is attempted, and regularly during app installation in case internet cuts out during an app installation. Then I've also told it to create a reusable method or helper that can be used throughout the application, like we have done for other things in this file. So this is a Windows System Service file, and it contains a bunch of helper methods that basically checks what the Windows version is, to restart Explorer, to refresh the desktop, and that type of thing. So having an internet connection check method that we can just reuse throughout the application would be the best way to do this. So I'm going to send this instruction, and then we'll see if it can do it in one shot. So first it's going to check all of the relevant files that I just gave it, and that's exactly what I wanted to do, because the AI's context windows are not that big yet, or at least Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which is what I'm using mainly. It doesn't have a massive context window, so I prefer giving it the exact files it needs to work on, because I already understand the project. I know where the implementations are, so I'll just give it the files, and then it can just work on those files. And then it doesn't have to go and manually search for the file and go through the entire code base and then clog up its context window with info that it doesn't need. So it's analyzed all of these files, and now after it's done the analysis, it'll create the reusable internet connection checker, and then we'll need to implement that reusable internet connection checker into the files that I gave it here, the winget installation service and then the app installation service. So it's added a list of reliable domains, Microsoft.com, Google.com, and Cloudflare.com. So it's basically going to ping those URLs to determine if we have internet connection, and then it'll cache for 10 seconds. So now that it's done that, it also needs to update the interface file that references these system services so that it knows about the new internet connectivity method. And now it's busy updating the winget installation service, and now it's gone ahead and it's updating the app installation service as well. So once it's done this, we will have to test and see if it works, because although everything looks good in chat and it says it's done everything, it doesn't mean it is working. So it says it's implemented. So in the chat here, you can see it's implemented the internet connectivity checks for app installations. So I'm going to accept all of those changes, and then we'll actually test it to see if it works. So I'm just going to run .NET build and then .NET run so it can run the application. And I'll also have to disconnect from the internet. So I'm going to disable the Ethernet as well as the Wi-Fi. You can see I don't have internet at the moment. So let's go ahead and try to install something like Firefox, for example. Do I want to go ahead and install it? It says the following apps were successfully installed. So that's obviously a false positive. And now what I'll do is, so I'm going to open the latest Winhance log, go all the way down to the bottom, and then we can see the app installation started here. And we can actually see that in the logs, the internet connection did work. So the implementation is working, but we're not seeing it in the UI yet because it didn't pull it through to the UI layer. So first, I'm going to have to connect to the internet again. And now I'm going to paste the log content that I got, and then I'm going to tell it the following. So I've told it that I tested by disconnecting from the internet and then tried installing Firefox as an example. And you can see from the logs that the internet connection test did work, but in the UI and in the logs after that, it incorrectly reports success and that the task was completed. So ensure that the correct messages are shown both in the log file and in the UI, depending on if the operation failed or succeeded. So I'm going to send that instruction, and then hopefully this is the last prompt that I have to give it with regards to this issue, and then it will be fixed. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop the recording of this video here. And I'm guessing the next video that I'm going to upload on the channel is going to be the update video and not a development diaries video. Because like I said in the previous video, I do want to get the next version of Winhance released by the end of this week or early next week. And I'm going to be putting all the time and effort now into fixing most of these issues that we have on the roadmap here so that I can get a decent update out to you guys real soon. So thanks so much for watching. If you've watched all the way to the end, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. And I'll see all of you guys soon.